deux, trois, quatre, cinq.
Know what you're talking about.
Un, deux, trois, quatre. Megan Draper, that's who it is.
Should we even do an intro? Let's just go. Let's do Mark Maron style, and we'll just start talking. Hey man,
Hey, we're
hey
just
man,
having a conversation.
What's up?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm Eugene Driscoll. Welcome to Valley Navel Gazing on WNHH 103.5 LP-FM, streaming live, although this is recorded.
Yeah, it's not.
On 103.5. No, wait, no, it's not streaming on the radio. That's stupid.
Yeah,
ValleyIndy.org and NewHavenIndependent.org. I'm here with my co-host, Valley Indy reporter. What's your name?
Ethan Fry, how are you?
I'm okay. How about you?
Can't complain, really.
How was your Thanksgiving?
Good. The morning of,
Why you got to mess with the mic so much? Because now it's going to...
I don't know. I feel compelled to.
All right.
I ran 3.1 miles without stopping.
Oh,
So,
yeah, you were in the
it was cool.
Commodore Hull.
Yeah, and
Thanksgiving.
I actually finished. So,
And
the 5K from Shelton to Derby and then back to Shelton.
And one of the things we were talking about off mic, because we're radio professionals, was we were looking like who you beat and who you didn't beat, essentially. Because that's what it comes. I've never run a race.
First thing I wanted to know, yeah.
Who are some of the people? Weren't there some names that who did you beat?
Well, 60-something-year-old Mayor Mark Loretti beat me handily. The only thing I'd say to that
He's
is that
Superman.
6 months ago I was smoking like 30 cigarettes a day, and like now I'm nuts. But like it's baby steps back from that. But I actually finished well ahead, according to the race results, of Seymour First Selectman Kurt Miller's administrative assistant, Rory Burke.
Rory,
Who's like 8 years younger than me, so he's got a... maybe he got there late or something. I don't know. I don't know. I would have figured he would have beaten me by like 20 minutes.
Yeah, he looks like the model of healthy living and all that. But look at that.
And then
what, Rory?
Prior Valley Navel Gazing guest Jenny Ames beat me by like a minute. So, but she's like a cross country coach. So
you're feeling good. I
don't feel bad about that.
Are you gonna stick with this healthy lifestyle now, or is this year? Are you gonna be running in more of these things? Or are you gonna become like one of those annoying people who posts like every time they run on Facebook? I can't stand it.
No. Well, I didn't post that.
They got their
Thursday.
app hooked up.
Yeah. No, I don't. Like, I have an app to like when I do running, I like use an app to like track it and stuff. But like I always, at the end of it, it's like share your, and like no, I don't want to do that.
No,
because first of all, like I'm not breaking any records here. Like I'm running like 10-minute miles. It's not really anything to write home about. But like in contrast to like smoking cigarettes and eating fast food every day, it's not like I'm Jack LaLanne here, but it's just marginally better than living like a totally
our office no longer
lifestyle.
reeks of cigarette smoke all the time. Now it's oranges. You're always bringing in oranges, which is nice. So what was it like to be like that involved or invested in a community event? I mean, you and I are relatively new to the Naugatuck Valley. I mean, I've been here like a decade, I guess. But you live in Shelton, I live in Derby.
Mm-hmm.
I've never attended actually that race. A couple of years ago, we would cover the football games live on the website, but I've never made it down there for a number of reasons. Mostly being
it's
family.
8 in the morning, yeah.
Right, and it's like, my wife always usually has to work on Thanksgiving.
My mom was like, hey, I'm going to come and like support you on this race. And then she found out it was at 8 in the morning. And she's like, I'll see you later that day.
She's like, good luck, son. But what were like some of the sights and sounds?
It was just it's cool to see everybody sort of coming together. The guy who's been running it since it started, Jack Walsh, he's soon to be retired president now retired, I guess.
He is officially retired.
President of the Valley United Way, pillar of the community. He's there, running everything.
Like he's on like a chariot, like Charlton Heston in Ben-Hur, like whipping, go run faster, let's go, Mark Anthony, like that kind of stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
No?
But yeah, he's like running things, and I guess over the course of like since they started it in like the early 2000s, it's raised $175,000 for the Boys and Girls Club, which is just amazing. And I guess they're going to be taking over like the management of it going forward. But yeah, just like went off without a hitch. Like all the firefighters are out. They had the 2 fire trucks on the Derby Shelton Bridge with the American flag, between them. all the police and fire sort of blocking off side streets and stuff. It's just a cool thing to see.
And then you, as a reporter, as you ran by, they took the flag away and all turned their backs
just
or something
throwing
like
stuff
that.
at me.
They were
Yeah.
just
No. I don't think anybody recognized me. I hope nobody. I didn't get any bricks thrown at me or anything.
And just speaking of Valley staple community events, I went to the Seymour Christmas Parade last Sunday, which first time I ever went to that, and that was an awesome event. We actually streamed it live on Facebook. I was there. I mean, I don't like to leave my house. I'll be honest with you. I'm terrible. And but my wife, who's a photographer, got a freelance assignment for the Connecticut Post where she used to work. And I was like, I can't say no. You know what I'm going to say? No, I can't. No. But anyway, she went up there and we brought the kids, and I decided to live stream it, on my iPhone, and it got like 2,000 views on Facebook, which was amazing. But it angered my wife because there she is trying to work. Nobody's watching our kids. And this Seymour Christmas Parade, what I didn't know they do is as they go by on all the floats. First of all, we should get a float. We should do a Valley Indy thing and walk it next year because it would be a lot of fun. They throw candy at the kids. It's like Halloween.
Yeah.
I had no idea. This took me by surprise. So I'm sitting there, doing live video, not really paying attention to my kids on either side of me, and they're practically running under the tires of fire trucks, especially my 3-year-old Emma, to get this candy. Like, they loved it, and it was just a really cool event to see. So, we're growing here at the Valley Indy. We're actually beyond just covering these things, involved in the community to some extent. Other than just like going to the Dewdrop Inn and sitting on a bar stool. But anyway, let's go over the most read stories of the week. This is from valleyindy.org. And again, my name is Eugene Driscoll, and you're listening to Valley Navel Gazing on 103.5 WNHH LP FM, streaming live on valleyindy.org and newhavenindependent.org. Number 5, most read story of the week was our old interview with Donald Trump.
The previous episode
last
of this
week's podcast. Yeah, it's number 5. It got, I think I want to say 200 people watched on Facebook. We posted it to Facebook, another 100 or 200 on YouTube, and then like another 50 or so on Libsyn. And I don't know how many on iTunes. And I didn't check our SoundCloud to see how many people had downloaded. But that was an interview that I had done 16 years ago with Donald Trump, and I somehow managed to hang on to the cassette recording all these years.
And we haven't gotten any emails from Kellyanne Conway or anything.
Not a single cease and desist. I mean, I didn't tag him. I didn't do like an @Donald Trump. Sad. But no. And no, like we didn't get attacked.
And it wasn't that.
Nobody's called to.
It wasn't that controversial or anything. It was pretty.
No. Yeah. So that was that. That was the 5th most read. Number 4, people care more about the Seymour Christmas Parade video than our old Donald Trump interview. Number 3. Was a story you wrote at a court. Ansonia man gets 7 years for sexual assault. The second most read story, this is interesting. The Derby consultant says the Main Street widening plan is flawed. Yeah. That's out of that Downtown Now Derby effort to revitalize the Derby redevelopment zone along the south side of Main Street along the Housatonic River. They had this big reveal, which the reveal was surprising that the consultant spent a lot of time talking about how the Route 34 Main Street widening needs to be tweaked. There's been a lot of comments on Facebook and our site itself under that, and we're going to have a follow-up because the report was just released. So, and then the most read story was just something we posted yesterday. This was the Ansonia police investigate a shooting. Someone was shot on Howard Avenue a few nights ago. We didn't have a ton of information. And that's one of those things. Here's how, I heard about that shooting. We knew it was going on. I wasn't in a position where I could leave my house and go to it. It's like when you're reading Goodnight Moon to your kids, it's hard to just drop them and go run to a shooting. So I was texting you, but you were, living your own life at 8:30 on whatever it was, Monday. You said you were allegedly in Ridgefield. I don't know if I believe you.
I was at the... you'll find this totally boring.
I don't have to know where you were. It's none of my business.
It was interesting to me. This
is going to be geeky. It's going to be weird. Maybe we should just move on.
I'm a fan of like Formula One car racing, and the season for that just ended Sunday, and that's produced by the NBC Sports Network, which is based in Stamford. So every year for the past couple of years, they've had an event at the Ridgefield Playhouse where they like do like a season recap, like the guys who are on TV would like call the races, and they do like a season recap, like behind the scenes sort of thing. So that's where I was at. And like right at the end of that, it's like shooting in Ansonia. It's like, oh, of course there was. Like as
Ethan
I was
has
driving
a whole
to
other
it,
life that I've worked with you for years. I don't know you. I don't know your habits. I don't know your
Formula
hobbies.
One, dude.
I had no idea. All right, so but you, to your credit, you went over there. We
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
What my point is, we did the best we could that night. But a lot of times when it's a breaking news situation like that, unless you're there in a few minutes, things get cordoned off. You can't talk to people. So we didn't have as much information as the public would have liked. We had to really rely on the official word of the police department. And the police department, they're gonna, in a situation like that, they're gonna release what they're gonna release. So there was a lot of scanner chatter going on about a car they may have been looking for. I've learned in the past, sometimes when you use that information, it can turn out to be wrong.
It's not,
we just try to confirm anything before we just throw it out there. We feel some type of obligation. So, all right, so what is our point of this podcast? And there is none. 11 minutes into it, we are just winging it. We're still recovering and catching up to posting stories after the Thanksgiving holiday. But I thought maybe we would just take a moment. You know, Ethan and I, we talk about local issues all the time, and that's our primary mission here at the Valley Indy, covering local news. But we're also movie fans. You know, Tom Breen, WNHH, does a podcast or a weekly radio show on the station that I listen to and I love. But I'm offended that he hasn't invited me on to talk about movies. I talk about movies all the time. I don't know what I got to do. He talked about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre in one of his shows. Wow. I'm like, I'm an expert. I lived it.
I think you've done entire podcasts about the Texas Chainsaw, and not this podcast.
Right. I have another podcast that is just, frankly, it's too bizarre and too much cursing to be heard on a like FCC licensed radio station. But it's called the Mobile Horror Companion. Don't look it up. But it's me and a screenwriter, an actual like live living screenwriter, and a guy who does gore for makeup effects. We just talk about horror movies, and we just argue sort of incessantly. And the Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 is one of the movies we argue about. I think it's a masterpiece. The screenwriter thinks it's garbage. But anyway, I thought we would take a moment to talk about the worst movies on the IMDB Top 10. This is the list that everyone references from the Internet Movie Database. Their users rank the movies. And what's the worst one on there? If I go through it real quickly, number 1 is The Shawshank Redemption. I disagree.
Send you here for life. That's exactly what they take.
Number 2, The Godfather. Number 3, The Godfather Part 2. Okay, those are all. You know that's going to be
common. Yeah. What shocks me is that. Well, I mean,
then it starts to go off. Number 4, The Dark Knight. Number 5, 12 Angry Men, 1957. Number 6, Schindler's List. Number 7, Pulp Fiction. 8, Lord of the Rings, Return to the King. I don't even remember which one that was.
They all were terrible.
They don't hold up. They definitely.
They were all.
I mean,
way too long. Like way too long. Like
number 9, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, and number 10, Fight Club. So out of those, what doesn't deserve to be on there?
Lord of the Rings is the worst on there for me. I think Shawshank Redemption is like it's not as good on subsequent views as like, you know, it's one of those movies like Forrest Gump, sort of like the first time you see it, like, oh,
those came out around the same time too,
and then you watch it again and you're like, you know, like.
See, after the
Contact is another one.
Contact I don't know about, but after the fall of the Berlin Wall, I think like we were just looking for really happy, joyous movies. It was such a great time. Our biggest concern was OJ. You know, in the early 90s. Different now.
Yeah.
But it's the Shawshank. Do you watch that show Last Man on Earth with Will Forte? It's on Fox. It's a great show. Okay. I highly recommend it. But one of the things they do, you know, it's about the apocalypse that's come and gone, and the virus killed off everybody except this small group of survivors. I'm not even going to go into it. There's funny Shawshank Redemption references in there, but it would take me 10 minutes to set it up, and you're better off just going and finding the show.
Yeah, I thought
so.
I never saw The Dark Knight was the first Christopher Nolan Batman, right?
No, the first one was Batman Begins, the one with Liam Neeson.
Oh, Dark Knight, the one with Heath Ledger, or is that the one with Bane?
The Dark Knight is the one with Heath Ledger, the Joker.
Okay, yeah, I watched like a half an hour of that and turned it off. Like I didn't.
Why only a half hour?
I thought Batman Begins was a great movie, but I could not get into the Heath Ledger Joker one. Like I don't know whether it was like.
What about Heath Ledger licking his lips and all that?
Like everybody was like, I like, and maybe that's just the contrarian in me that like everybody was raving about Heath Ledger's performance, and I expected like. Something to like, I expected my mind to be blown, and then I was like, yeah, it's a method actor. Like, okay,
I should just point out as we're recording.
I guess better than what's his name's Joker, though I haven't
Jack Nicholson.
I haven't seen Suicide Squad.
Jared Leto, who ruined method acting by putting out
Dead
there how he was,
and whatever,
doing all this bizarre stuff in character all the time, and the movie tanked, and they cut out most of his part.
And they're spinning off another character from it, like.
But as we're doing this, we're being photographed by Kathleen from the Community Foundation for Greater New Haven. I just got to tell you, Ethan, she took a photo of something on your desk. So whenever this comes out, that's on you. I just want for the record, it's Ethan's desk.
Yeah,
my
not
part
the
office is like mine is cordoned off, and it's too dark in there for because I know how to what's that word? SWAT the photographers. Thwart. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Thank you. All right, so back to our list here. I'm going to say the worst movie on here. Man, actually, it's kind of tough.
Have you seen that 12 Angry Men? I think that's Henry Fonda.
It is. I've actually never seen that. I mean, I've read about it extensively.
7th grade. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that's supposed to be great, but for whatever reason, I've just never actually sat through the whole thing. But, I guess I'm going to agree with you. I'm going to go with Lord of the Rings. The Return of the King, because I don't think those movies...
I'm forgetting which one that was. But
I don't even... Which is testament to the fact that it's not that good.
I was not wowed by any of them, yeah.
What I'm amazed is what's missing from that list.
Citizen Kane?
Yeah, well, take or leave Citizen Kane. Goodfellas.
Oh, God.
What do you mean, oh, God?
Dances with Wolves?
Dances with Wolves took the Oscar from Goodfellas in 1990, and one of the worst... But you're not a Goodfellas. But
that's a good.
Your taste in this will go over big in New Haven with all the fancy pants. You love French movies. That's your whole thing. You let me borrow a French movie, which
you have not returned yet.
It's just sitting on a shelf. You can get it any time. Gathering dust.
Jean-Pierre Melville masterpiece.
Yeah, it sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, Goodfellas isn't. It's a good, decent movie, I guess. Well, yeah, I'm surprised that both the first two Godfathers are there and Goodfellas isn't. But
I would put Goodfellas at the top of the list. I would. I think it's better than Godfather.
The best movie ever made.
I think Goodfellas is the best movie ever made.
Wow.
I think it's compelling from start to finish. You forget how scary it was. I think people forget because Joe Pesci now that's become sort of a joke. His character because you've been desensitized to the violence in that movie because it's been on. But that was essentially a horror movie. I remember seeing it in the theater when I had to be probably 16 or so when it first came out, and it was terrifying because you didn't know what Joe Pesci was going to do next.
Yeah.
It wasn't so comical.
Am I a clown? Am I funny? That whole it's as you said, it's seeped into it's like a cliche in pop culture. That whole monologue. But yeah, I remember. I must have been like 11 or 12 when I remember my parents rented it, and it was one of those things where I saw a bunch of the movie, but a lot of it was my mom's hand was
a lot of
covering my
in
eyes.
There too.
Yeah,
language they're okay with.
Whatever.
My son all the time. He's 6 now, and he constantly asks me about what bad words are, all the time. I watched. Speaking of movies, this movie called Hell or High Water with Jeff Bridges, Chris Pine, and Ben Foster. Great movie. I highly recommend it. You kind of came and went in theaters that you can rent
there's
it
a lot of those where I was at my mom's house over Thanksgiving.
There's no green guy wrecking stuff, or a guy with a cape fighting Batman, so no one...
Yeah, I was home for Thanksgiving, and my mom has 900 channels or whatever, so I'm scrolling through, and there's all these movies with A-listers that came out in the past couple of years that I had just never heard of, and I don't know if I don't go to the movies much anymore, but I just. But
it's called Hell or High Water, so my kid gets obsessed on the hell part of it because he knows that's a bad word somehow, and he's learning to read. I don't know about these schools teaching our kids to read. I just feel like I'm being undermined as a parent, left and right. I can't watch Hell or High Water now because he constantly asks about it, but. anyway.
Do you think Fight Club is one of the 10 best movies ever made?
I don't know if I'd put it on my top. I mean, I like Fight Club. I'm surprised to see that. I don't know if that's like the millennial influence on some of these.
I also like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, but do you think that's the best? Was that one of the Man with No Name?
Yes. I think that's Sergio Leone's best movie. A lot of people, Once Upon a Time in the West has gotten some revisionist love, but...
Did he do... Well, he must have.
Once Upon a Time in America.
A Fistful of Dollars?
Yes.
I really enjoyed that.
And For a Few Dollars More.
I really liked Fistful. What really throws me off about those is that how like they're dubbed, like it's like a bad Japanese horror movie, but it's like
but it works.
Great Western cinema.
Except Clint Eastwood. Another thing I was trying to explain to my son, the whole concept of dubbing. But anyway, life's hard as a parent. But
and also like Pulp Fiction, that's generally recognized to be like Tarantino's best movie. But I think I enjoy Jackie Brown more. But
I think I would put Reservoir Dogs in a top 10. Although I think Pulp Fiction deserves to be there too. I would put
that was more of a groundbreaking film, I guess, than any of his others.
Yeah, he's sort of repeating himself in some of them after that. But you know what I'd also put on there? And The Thing, the 1982 John Carpenter movie, The Thing, should be on there. I'm surprised to see, because that's one that it sort of bombed when it came out. And that's our police scanner in the background. But it sort of bombed when it came out and was hated by critics, but has gone from a cult classic to being accepted just as a mainstream. Now it's considered a masterpiece. And I'm surprised it hasn't... eked its way into the IMDb top 10 yet. And also I'd put just another horror movie on there, because there's not one of these is a horror movie, as I'm looking again. 1978 George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. I think that is, I mean, if you look at
that was like
it defined the modern zombie
movie.
Yeah. I mean, he did it really in Night of the Living Dead, but if you look at the most popular show on planet Earth right now, the one that everyone's watching in huge numbers, which just blows my mind, is The Walking Dead, which is just like a hyper-violent...
Everybody but me, I guess.
Amoral show about zombies, but there would be no Walking Dead if it wasn't for George Romero's Dawn of the Dead. That's the plot. I mean...
And I guess we got to talk about like genres. And is The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly the best Western? Like I think people generally I'd put High Noon above it. People also like The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance. That's generally well regarded. But
well, what we're leaving out, The Wild Bunch. Sam Peckinpah's The Wild Bunch, which essentially ended the classic Hollywood Western by killing everyone at the end, where it's just a bunch of...
one yet.
Oh, it's such a good movie.
Stagecoach is another one that people hold out.
John, for me, after you see, I grew up watching, El Dorado was just on this weekend, and I was trying to watch it with my son, Jack, with Dean Martin as the drunk.
Oh, I saw
it. James
when
Caan.
I was at home at my mom's house. I saw that description on that. I was like, Dean Martin as a gunslinger?
Oh, I'm sorry. You know what, though? I'm getting the movies messed up, though. El Dorado was with James Caan and not Gregory Peck. Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum played the town drunk. And it's just, John Wayne and a 19-year-old James Caan. It's very good. But once you see The Wild Bunch, because it demystifies the Western and the whole Hollywood system, because it's just so downbeat. But I love The Wild Bunch, and the fact that it's not on this IMDb top 10 should be criminal. I'm going to call Donald Trump, whose phone number is in our last podcast, and I'm going to ask him, in addition to flag burning, we should strip anybody who doesn't put The Wild Bunch in the IMDb top 10. Just strip them of their citizenship. It's done.
Or jail for a year.
That's good too, yeah. So we don't have enough jails. But, so that's that. And then in terms of, we should just talk real quickly as we sort of wrap this one up, right? 24 minutes is probably enough on us rambling about movies. This will be, I already have the headline for this. We're going to call it Valley Indy, Navel Gazing, least interesting podcast ever. So this is history right here. This is by far our least interesting podcast, based on past page view information and download information. People hate when we don't talk about local news on this podcast. I interviewed the guy who starred in Gremlins, which I thought, that's it. We're finally going to break some iTunes records. Nothing. No one listened to it. No one cares about Gremlins. Jim Florentine.
Yeah, the Jim Florentine, yeah.
Cringe comic Jim Florentine. Nothing. No one cared. And Jim Florentine never retweeted it. So I unfriended him I showed him. I unfriended him on Facebook. All right, so here is This Day in History, stolen from derbyhistorical.org and compiled by Ethan Fry.
December 5th, 1906, Ansonia, an apartment in a 3-story tenement on Lower Main Street, catches fire when clothes drying next to a stove ignite.
Did you just copy and paste these without reading?
Yes. 2 construction workers who are working nearby are heroes after they enter the burning apartment and rescue 3 children who are home alone. One of them, a 5-year-old girl, is critically injured. The Eagle Hose Hook and Ladder Company No. 6 men hitch their hand-drawn jumper hose cart to Ansonia Water Company's sprinter horse, Sweet Marie, which then rushes barely under control at a breakneck speed to the fire, startling many along Main Street.
Probably the fire would startle them too, I would
The
think.
Eagle and Webster Hose Companies quickly extinguish the fire. So like that, you know.
Are we on Lower Main Street right now? We're at 158 Main Street. Is that?
Or
I wonder if
more.
that was the same, or if before the flood, did it have a different configuration? So anyway, that's that.
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
December 5th, 1906.
December 7th, 1907, the new Lyceum Theater opens in the Alling Block on Main Street in Derby. The entrance has been changed to a theater entrance complete with electric lights. The 225 seats are at an incline so everyone could see the stage, and there is standing room for 75 people. The storefront theater will show vaudeville, movies, and illustrated songs. On this opening night, the feature act is Mrs. Peter Mayer and her son of same name performing a comedy sketch. Tickets are sold out on the 2 opening night performances.
That sounds terrible.
December 8th, 1934.
What's an illustrated song?
It's a good question.
All right, moving on. High school
High
football's
school
next.
football. Ansonia defeats Derby 12-0 at Island Park. That's what we call O'Sullivan's Island, now O'Sullivan's Island, in 0-degree weather and a cold wind. 4,000 brave the cold to watch, with hot coffee being a popular drink. The ice in the water buckets freeze before the game is over. Last week, Ansonia youths painted a goalpost lavender. Ansonia's football team was named the Lavender back then, so Derby responds a couple days later by painting their own goalpost bright red. Both goalposts are carried to Ansonia by their victorious fans after the game. And then I thought this was interesting, a couple entries here. December 9th, 1908, Derby, the new hospital is nearing completion. A valley-wide committee has been organized and is actively trying to raise money to equip it. December 6th, 1909, about a year later, Derby, the new Griffin Hospital opens for patients for the first time. So here we are, 107 years later, Griffin still going strong, and pretty much, the hub of that community.
Those are some terrible choices. You had some better ones that you were going on with before we went on Mike to do this, but I guess we won't go into it. But and some of these are being repeated.
I feel like I'm. You
did the lavender thing.
Differentiate that. We did that with the football guys with when Mike Kenichi and
Sean Morse.
were in
Valley
here.
Sports
we mentioned that one.
Rewind, another podcast here at the Valley Indy. So I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add or bring up.
Any predictions for the Westworld season finale Sunday?
Well, this will air Monday.
Oh, yeah.
So how about that Westworld last night?
Shocking.
I
can't believe Dr. Ford is actually a host
and
like
when,
the rest of them.
When the guy from Boardwalk Empire showed up, Michael Shannon, that was unbelievable. In character.
Yeah.
Michael Shannon's awesome, by the way.
He has. I haven't seen him in. I saw him in there was like a movie on Netflix about like a hitman from the 70s. It was like he was called
the
like
Iceman?
the Iceman. Yeah.
That's a true story.
Yeah.
Because there was the whole HBO did a documentary series where they just sat down and interviewed that psycho. And it's like 4 parts. It's total exploitation.
Yeah.
HBO is thought of as so high-minded, but they do some really down in the gutter, and that was one of them where they just interviewed this hitman.
The same thing with MSNBC. It's like there's like left-wing news network, and then like Friday at 10 p.m. it's just like the prison channel.
Lock up. Yeah.
But whatever balances the account books, I guess.
But Michael Shannon has been doing podcasts lately. I guess he's promoting whatever movie he's in. The name of the movie escapes me, but he was on the Mark Maron podcast for an hour, and just an interesting, really weird guy. And I think he was on the Nerdist recently, that Chris Hardwick podcast.
Yeah, of all like the recent, like Boardwalk Empire to me is like the most disappointing. Like it had such potential in like the first couple seasons, but then it like, I don't know what happened. It just sort of like unraveled. I don't know how to explain it. Like it was just, it
ran out of steam.
Yeah, it just disappointed me, like how it ended up, I guess.
I think the whole thing, because now they're saying there's all these debates in the pop culture world as to whether episodic television has replaced the theater-going experience. Like, are people even going to go see movies anymore? I mean, what do people see in the movies now?
It's
like
all superhero
stuff,
movies, yeah.
Or things you take your kid to. You know, like Toy Story 4. So yeah, I don't know where I was going with that. But my problem with some of this, the television now, after you had Breaking Bad and Mad Men, The Sopranos, and The Wire, right? Those are sort of the major leagues of these new great modern television shows. They all had an end point, though. When they start, like The Wire, when it began, knew where it was going to end. And I think a lot of those shows did. I think The Sopranos probably did to some extent. Breaking Bad definitely did. They had some idea, like, all right, we're going to do 5-6 seasons, and that'll be it. Mm-hmm. Now you've got these shows, and I think Boardwalk Empire just sort of meandered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They start them. If they're a hit, then, I mean, The Walking Dead, I know you don't watch it, but this is it's like just an abuse of the golden era of television, because they're just clear. It's a big show. It's a big hit. They'll never end that thing. They hope it goes on forever, and you can tell they're just introducing and reintroducing characters. I mean, the last episode, as we're taping this, it revisited a storyline featuring a character. She was the sole featured character for the whole 1 hour episode, who hadn't been seen in 9 episodes. Like when I don't even remember what was she doing the last time I saw her. But
so they pulled a bottle episode on.
I think
on everybody. Huh?
What does that mean? What reference is that, Dennis Miller? What are you?
It's like an episode. Like I forgot. It's like refers to like when I forgot like why it's called a bottle episode, but it's like it minimizes the use of like characters and sets and stuff to save money, like a TV show.
I see it as just padding. Mm-hmm. Like there's a couple of main stories in there, especially this season, but they know they have to drag out all these seasons and maximize their advertising revenue, so they just create characters and bring in all these characters and claim, it's from the comic book.
Yeah.
But it gets annoying. Like that's a show that just annoys me now every week when I watch it. It's no Real Housewives of New Jersey. That's all I have to say.
Wikipedia, a bottle episode is produced cheaply and restricted in scope to use as few non-regular cast members, effects, and sets as possible. The etymology originates with the similar term used on the 1960s Star Trek. Cast and crew members of the show use the phrase "ship in a bottle" episodes for those that took place only on board the Starship Enterprise. So, like there's a show I watched, Community, that was on for a few years, where they would have like one of the sets was like a study room, like one of the episodes was just all in that room, stuff like that.
I had no idea. Look at that. You learn something new every day, especially on Valley Navel Gazing.
Especially if you deal with Ethan Fry on a regular basis.
All right. So for Ethan Fry, I'm Eugene Driscoll, and we will see you or hear you next week. Goodbye.
Goodbye.